Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain. Otherwise, actually, we're not behind the Iron Curtain today. That's right, we're in Las Vegas, Nevada at SHOT Show 2025. Having a good time, talking gun stuff, talking gun policy, talking new gun toys, all that fun stuff. Unfortunately, it's just going to be me today. As you can see, if you look behind me, we got the folks over at Arms Room Radio. There's Mike over there doing his thing, interviewing folks. So we're going to have a good time because there's a lot of stuff to talk about, right? Of course there is. That's right, President Trump. Now, President Trump, not just 45, now he's also 45 and 47. He took office yesterday and hit the ground running. Joe Biden, let's just say that, he made a splash on his way out the door. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And then, we're just going to chop it up all about SHOT Show. By the way, want to remind you guys, if you get a chance, make sure to check out some of the other videos that we're going to be posting, interviews with various different products and organizations and books, people who are here at SHOT Show. So make sure to tune in, make sure, like, share, subscribe, encourage your friends to do the same. Now, before we get into it, let's go ahead and let's do what we got to do first, and that is give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. If you are looking to do a new build, or maybe you're looking to rebarrel your old rifle, check out hitmanindustries.net. They have rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase today. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Just go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org. Check them out today. Once again, if you want to be a part of California's future today, you gotta join CRA. And then we've got Hawg Holsters, the best in tactical concealed carry holsters available on the market. Just go to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. Helping Americans wear guns. Check them out today. Oh, by the way, make sure you use discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And check them out today and get your Hawg holster on discount from us. And then finally, we've got uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. As the weather's changing, and let me tell you, it's cold right now here in Las Vegas. But I want you to go and check them out today, because they got cold weather gear, they got hot weather gear, they got wet weather gear. They've got everything you need, all things tactical except the gun, at uscombatgear.com. All right, now let's go ahead and get into today's news. And obviously, start off, we already did the kind of welcome to SHOT Show. SHOT Show this year, it is like it is every year. It's tons of different people. For those of you who do not know, SHOT Show is where the organizations that do shooting, hunting, outdoor, and trade show, that's what it stands for, but they come with all of their new products, all of their firearms, firearm accessories, outdoor accessories, law enforcement accessories, all of that stuff, right? This is where they come and they show it to the people who are in the industry, right? People who own gun stores, own outdoor stores. This is where they come and they decide what they're going to be purchasing for the year. So to be here, you have to be in the industry, right? We're in media and we cover the firearms community, so that's why we're here. But you cannot be just a general person coming out to SHOT Show. You got to know somebody that's in the industry. And so even with that, there's going to be probably a couple of 100,000 people that are going to be coming through here, and there are miles upon miles upon miles of stuff to look at. Sadly, being from California, a lot of the stuff that's here we cannot partake of in terms of the actual firearms, but there's lots of other cool gear and stuff like that. You'll hear about some of that as we do interviews throughout the week. So make sure to tune in, pay attention, because we'll be posting those videos for you throughout the week. By the way, if you're watching us on one of our affiliates, like the California Republican Assembly, like CraigDeLuz.com, you're gonna have to go over to the Rundown. Just go to the rundown.us. You also, which will take you to our Rumble channel. That's where you can watch them. Subscribe to our Rumble channel, or you'll be able to watch some of these on Spotify as well. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and get into it now. Once again, so we got SHOT Show. We're here. We're having a good time. Mike will be on for some of these. Mike won't be on for some of them, but we'll see as the week goes on. Obviously, now we're starting off. First thing to talk about, President Trump has officially taken office and has been sworn at, I mean sworn in, and it was definitely a memorable thing to watch.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States
the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Okay, a couple of interesting things to note about that. Number one, they were late. They got it started a little bit late, and I guess I don't know if they were. Part of the reason why they were late was they were waiting on the president at the time, or the former president, Mr. Biden. They were waiting on him to show up. He was late. Then they were also, for some reason, they didn't. Melania or somebody didn't bring the family Bible, or didn't have it there on time, so they started it actually initially without him even having it there, having the Bible there. I don't understand what that was all about. But then, and this is the thing that I didn't get, and this is actually a story that they were reporting on that I wanted to hit on and talk a little bit about, and that was that for some reason President Trump didn't have his hand on the Bible, and I don't understand exactly why that was. So here's a story over here, and this is from over at CBS, and I want to go ahead and check this out real quick. Yeah, if you notice, when he's standing there getting sworn in, he's got his right hand up, but his left hand is not. His hand's not on the Bible. Anyway, it says here, according to CBS News, some onlookers observed President Donald Trump didn't place his hand on the Bible when sworn in at his inauguration, prompting questions about how the Bible traditionally factors into the ceremony. While it's common for incoming presidents to place their hand on the Bible while taking the oath of office, it's not a legal requirement. Truth is, the actual swearing in is not a legal requirement. They've already taken their oath of office. Anyway, he becomes president no matter what at a specific time. Anyway, according to Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution states, all executive and judicial officials, both of the United States and of several states, shall be bound by the oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification for any office or public trust under the United States. First Lady Melania Trump held two Bibles, one given to Mr. Trump by his mother when he was a child, and the second, and the Lincoln Bible, which was used at Abraham Lincoln's 1861 inauguration. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts directed Mr. Trump to raise his right hand and repeat after him, as Mrs. Trump was still approaching with the Bibles. Mrs. Trump arrived next to her husband a moment later before he began reciting the oath of office. So in other words, she was standing there, but for some reason it took her a little bit to he didn't wait for her to get there. So I think that kind of explains why his hand was not on the Bible, because, well, Mr. Roberts, the Chief Justice, who, by the way, has not been a very good Chief Justice in my opinion, he didn't wait for her to walk up and then say, raise your right hand. And so I guess he was ready to go and didn't bother to put his hand on the Bible. So it really doesn't matter. What matters is he is now President of the United States, and he is doing his thing. Did not hesitate, did not slow down. From the very, very beginning, he has hit the ground running. And there were two things in particular that he wanted to make it a point to get done. The first of which was, let's move it here. There we go, bam. The first one was executive orders. And folks, let me tell you, he did a lot in the area of executive orders and did basically exactly what he said he was going to do. In fact, according to the Associated Press, Trump sets out to erase Biden's legacy with pardons and orders immediately after taking office. Let's read a little bit here from the Associated Press. It says here Donald Trump began erasing Joe Biden's legacy immediately. Well, let's be honest. It's going to be a little bit difficult because he was the worst president of the United States ever. It's going to be a little difficult to completely erase it, but he's going to do his best. It says here Donald Trump began erasing Joe Biden's legacy immediately after taking office as the nation's 42nd president, pardoning nearly all of his supporters who rioted at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, issuing a blizzard of executive orders to signal his desire to remake American institutions. It was an aggressive start Monday for a returning president who feels emboldened, is emboldened and vindicated, definitely is vindicated, by his unprecedented political comeback. 4 years after being voted out of the White House, Trump has a second chance to launch what he called the golden age of authority. So let's take a little bit about what these executive orders, quickly reshaping government. Okay, this talks about what they are, but let's get back to what he's done. So there are a couple of things that he did with his executive orders. Let me see here if it. Okay, this article doesn't outline what those are, but let's talk about a little bit about what some of those executive orders are. Number one, he declared an emergency on the border. So in other words, the border is now going to be closed. When I say closed, I mean no more. There's not going to be any more asylum. So if you want to apply for asylum, you're not going to be able to come into the country and just walk into the country and then get asylum and then go about your business. He's going to restrict people's ability to seek asylum. He's suspending the refugee program, which basically means, once again, we're not just allowing people to just once again walk into the country. That's phenomenal. He's going to roll back EV standards, or the electric vehicle standards that have been put in place by the Biden administration. Basically saying, look, no, we're not going to mandate. Now, you're going to hear a lot of media folks talk about, well, he's going to undo or get rid of all the incentives for electric vehicles. No, he's not getting rid of any incentives that have been put in place. What he is going to be doing, however, is he is going to be saying, look, we're not going to mandate that states or that manufacturers reduce or have a certain percentage of the vehicles that they are manufacturing be electric vehicles. And that's something, once again, because first of all, we know that the infrastructure doesn't exist really for people to be able to charge. We also know that the electric vehicles, while they work in some areas and they work for some folks, it's going to be a real challenge in other areas, because places like, in the Midwest where it gets really, really cold, because we know that, they don't charge as fast and they don't hold a charge. And in some cases, they won't even charge if it's too cold. Anyway, all that having been said, he's going to allow American car companies to make cars that people want. And if people want electric vehicles, guess what they're going to do? They're going to make electric vehicles. Funny how that works. Anyway, so those are a couple of the executive orders that he put in place. He wrote executive orders basically declaring as a function of the government that, there's two sexes, that's it. And government is going to stop pretending that there are multiple 72 other genders. No. There's male and there's female, and the government is going to recognize male and female and stop trying to treat them like they're changeable. Now, it's kind of funny because, I know this is a discussion that we're having in society, but I don't know when we just decided we're just going to get rid of all that and we're not going to talk about it at all. It's like, it's now a given that gender or sex is interchangeable. I don't know when that ever happened, but for some reason it just seemed to the left just acted like it was a done deal. Well, Donald Trump has said, no, it's not a done deal, or it is a done deal, and no, there are only two genders. And the government is going to implement policies as such, whether it comes to sports, whether it comes to bathrooms, whether it comes to access to various different things. Now, this clearly is something that's going to be challenged in court, but that's okay. Let's actually, once again, have that discussion. The other thing that he did was he put an end to birthright citizenship. Now, not so much an end, I think providing a clear definition of what birthright citizenship means. For example, if you enter the country illegally, you will not be allowed to just decide randomly, hey, I'm going to go ahead and, I'm sorry, if you came in the country illegally and then you have kids, that does not necessarily make those children citizens of the United States. Because there's a major part of that part of the Constitution when it talks about birthright citizenship. It talks about you are supposed to be subject to the laws thereof, or subject to under the jurisdiction. And I don't have it right here in front of me. Probably should have provided that, but the point being is that you don't just become a citizen, but you have to be subject to it, which means if you came into the country illegally, chances are you're not subject to it, right? And that's a part of the Constitution that we ignore when it comes to birthright citizenship. So I think there's going to be a legal discussion about that, and I think that's what should actually happen. We need some sort of a clarification as to what birthright citizenship means, meaning what does the Constitution mean when it says you are born into this country? If you are born here, then you are a citizen. What exactly does that mean? And I think the executive order that he's put in place is now going to, because groups are going to sue. People are going to sue, and I think that's a good idea. I think it's good that we're going to get that clarification. Anyway, those are just some of the executive orders that he issued on day one. I'm sure there's tons of stories out there you'll be able to find where you can find out all the other stuff that he did. Now, the other thing that happened was he actually did some pardons, and specifically, he pardoned folks who were involved in the riot at the Capitol on January 6th, the whole J6 folks. There were about I want to say 1,500 people who were investigated and or charged. He basically pardoned almost all of them. My understanding, and I could be wrong, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the only people who really didn't were the people who aren't getting pardons, are the people who were involved in physical altercations with law enforcement. Meaning, if you assaulted police officers, which I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. If you were involved in a physical altercation where you struck a police officer, and there's clear evidence that you did such, I'm sorry. You should have to pay the price on it. I'm sorry. I'm not okay with you assaulting officers. But there are some instances where people are like, well, not everybody who was charged with or even convicted of assaulting an officer actually assaulted the officer. So I think some of those cases you may see people get on. But like I said, in the end, I think J.D. Vance, and we talked about it last week. J.D. Vance made it very clear. No, if you were involved in assaulting a police officer, you probably shouldn't get a pardon. And I'm okay with that. But anyway, otherwise, the other folks who were part of political prosecutions that were persecutions, yeah, those folks deserve to get. They deserve pardons, and glad to see that he did that. Now, the president was not the only one. He was not the only one that issued pardons yesterday. In fact, Joe Biden himself did some pardons of his own. You may have heard, if you've been paying attention to anything in the news, he actually pardoned his entire family. So his siblings, his spouse, anybody involved in the dozens of LLCs that were involved in the whole process of, the whole grift, that his son Hunter, he was the bag man for. Yeah, pardoned everybody, his brothers, anybody who was involved in those LLCs, anybody who was involved in the selling of influence, selling of vice presidential and presidential influence. Yes, that's exactly what they were doing. That's where the Hunter Biden investigations were going, that they were selling influence. They were selling specifically access to Joe Biden. The one person he didn't pardon was himself. So I'm real interested to see what sort of investigation. Now, some people are saying there's a good chance, or at least it's unlikely, that he's actually going to wind up. He's actually going to be, well, let's just say this. I have a feeling he's going to be, in an old folks home in the next few months, in the next year, within a year or so. Or at the very least, he's going to be under the care of he's going to be dealing with elderly care, to be honest with you. But anyway, what's interesting about it is, so he provided blanket pardons for his family, as well as the January 6th folks, the January 6th committee, yeah, all of those folks are getting pardons. Now you're saying, why did they need pardons? Now let's be clear. We know that the January 6th hearings were nothing more than a political stunt. It was an opportunity, it was a way in which they could go after President Trump. It was 100% political. They hired a producer from ABC News to come out and produce the entire thing. So it was all anyway. Then on top of it, they withheld evidence. You know, we just talked about before, the folks who just got pardoned, they withheld evidence that was exculpatory evidence, evidence that should have been made available to those folks in their trials. Nope. Didn't give them access to it. They didn't have. There was evidence of law enforcement, people just ushering them into the Capitol building, right? Which basically meant, well, how can you be violating the law? How can you be trespassing if law enforcement is not only letting you in, but in some cases they were almost giving them guided tours? Anyway, all that having been said, the January 6th committee, they're all being exonerated. Anthony Fauci, right? I refuse to call him doctor anymore. Anthony Fauci, who basically lied to the American people about his involvement in, gain of function research, the funding thereof, who lied to the American people about natural immunity, who lied to the American people about masks, who lied about distancing, who lied about just about everything relating to COVID. Yeah, he is getting a pardon. He got a pardon from the President of the United States. And once again, these are people in most cases who haven't been charged with crimes. They were preemptive pardons, which is kind of interesting because Democrats really kind of made their feelings known. You might recall 4 years ago when it was rumored that President Trump might offer pardons to his family and those who worked with him. They made their feelings known about what they felt about preemptive pardons.
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
But no, it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
Is there an innocent explanation for someone to seek preemptive pardons for family members? Would you do that if you knew you were innocent and just worried about outside forces?
The answer to that is going to be no. If you haven't done anything wrong, you sit there and go, what do you need a preemptive pardon for?
If he pardons people preemptively, he's essentially telling the public that these people have committed crimes. And we may not be aware of what they are, but the pardon is clear evidence that crimes have been committed.
I imagine if he decides to issue these preemptive pardons, it will be cast in a way that he is protecting his family and protecting their reputations from, villainous exterior forces that are against him.
First off, we should just take a deep breath and acknowledge the audacity of a president who's so clearly concerned about his own criminal culpability and that of his family members that pardons are a major obsession with him.
The idea of a kind of prospective pardon, this sort of permanent federal get-out-of-jail-free card, that seems to be what we're talking about in the case of this, right, with Giuliani and his 3 eldest children who, as far as we know, have not been convicted of a crime. Maybe they've committed a lot, and they don't want to face action. I don't know. It's weird. I wouldn't ask for a pardon. I don't think I deserve one because I don't think I've done anything criminal. But where does that come from? That concept that you can just kind of wave your magic pardon wand.
We have Tish James. We have Xavier Becerra. Mimi Rocha is literally my DA in my town. There will be opportunities to prosecute these people, regardless if they abuse the pardon power as they are thinking.
Hopefully, Ellie, there will be a skyfall on this entire crime family, and there will be another day for them to die.
The president does indeed pardon, let's say, Rudy Giuliani or any members of his family. Would you see that, and I asked Preet Bharara this question, as essentially an admission of guilt?
I certainly would view it that way. I think millions of Americans would view it that way. If there was no belief in criminality, why would he think a pardon was necessary?
CNN has learned President Biden will pardon his son Hunter Biden.
All right. The interesting thing about that last guy, that was Adam Schiff, the newly elected U.S. Senator from the state of California. That's right, my senator. He's one of the recipients of a pardon from Joe Biden. I find it interesting, once again, let's just go back to all of it. These are all people, and you listen to what they're saying, and you can literally remove everything that they're saying, and the exact same things can now apply to Joe Biden, right? But you don't hear any of them saying those things. You don't hear any of them talking about those things. What's really funny is that listen to what Joe Biden had to say about these sorts of pardons and whether or not this is something that he would engage in.
President Trump is reportedly considering a wave of preemptive pardons. Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. You're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons. Nor are you going to see in our administration the approach to making policy by tweets. It's just going to be a totally different way in which we approach the justice system.
So, in other words, he literally just did what 4 years ago he said, by the way, that Donald Trump did not do. Donald Trump didn't do any of those pardons the way in which he actually did. So you heard liberals, I mean, that was like 2.5, almost 3 minutes of liberals excoriating Donald Trump for something he didn't do. But you don't hear any of them saying anything about Joe Biden and what he just did. And he literally just did exactly what they said Donald Trump shouldn't do. And anyway, that's hilarious. And the last thing is that whole I'm not going to do policy by tweet. You know, he just tried to add an amendment to the Constitution. He literally tried to amend the Constitution with a tweet. They issued a tweet on Friday basically saying that the Equal Rights Amendment is now added to the Constitution. He did that. He literally tried to amend the Constitution via tweet. The guy who said, we're not going to do laws or legislation by tweet. Sounds a little hypocritical to me. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me something different. Maybe you see it differently, but all that having been said, it's hilarious. Forgive my French, it was a shit show of a presidency, and needless to say, he decided that he was going to leave as disgracefully as he governed. There you go. That's our president. That's your president. Anyway, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your hog holster today. All of our parting shots today are going to be, related to the change in address of the presidency. And, let's just say they're going to also be brought to you by our good friends over at Babylon Bee, fake news you can count on. Here we go. First one. Nation actually pretty impressed that Biden lived through all 4 years of his presidency. That's no small thing. I got to admit to you, that is kind of crazy. Those of us who were paying attention during the campaign of 2020 realized that Joe Biden was not healthy. And so, yeah, a lot of people are very surprised that he made it through all 4 years. Let's see here. Now you've got, by the way, now you've got liberals who are claiming that democracy has been stolen. That was the whole thing, right? If you're going to elect President Trump, democracy is dead. Well, democracy falls as man who received the most votes becomes president. Yeah, that is hilarious. Because, by the way, democracy in their eyes is not actually democracy, although we are a republic who democratically elects the people who make those laws. But we are anyway, all that having been said, democracy for them is what they want. If what they want doesn't happen, then that's not democracy. Anyway, moving on. It's a picture of Joe Biden. It says here, elderly dementia patient cruelly evicted from home. Yeah, that is funny. And then finally, you got this last one here. Cleaning crew arrives at White House to get rid of old man smell. Now, the interesting thing is Donald Trump is not a whole lot younger. He's definitely more cognitively there, and he's definitely in better physical condition. But yeah, not much younger. Anyway, anyway, that's hilarious. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. Thank you to the folks once again over at the Babylon Bee. All right, folks, well, that's going to be it for today's program, but we're going to have one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. You got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out at cragop.org. Then you've got Hog Holsters, the best in concealed carry tactical holsters on the market. Just go to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, you've got all things tactical at uscombatgear.com. That's going to be it for today's program. We'll be back with some more interviews from folks here at SHOT Show 2025. Very much appreciate you tuning in, appreciate you liking and sharing the program, and encouraging your friends to do the same. I will be back, or we will be back. This program will be back tomorrow. But like I said, tune in throughout the day and tomorrow morning as we bring to you various interviews, once again, from SHOT Show 2025. We will holler at you later.